All right, so for this last one here, this last conversation, all right, is going to be left open a little bit for some conversation. And I'm going to be showing some pictures on here that I'm hoping that you guys will be responding in the comments. And, you know, normally I do quite a bit of investigating, and I usually rewrite what I'm going to talk about so that I remember it and stuff, so I don't have to keep looking back when I'm having a conversation about it. This time, I intentionally didn't do that. I wanted to leave it bare and open so that we can talk about it and look at some of the details around this crime and crime scene. So what we're going to be talking about today is controlling the crime scene. Now, if you guys remember, we've talked about the 113 pieces of physical evidence and the fact that based on the national statistics and standards, that is next to nothing. Most crimes that are a homicide with an unsuspected suspect, meaning they don't know who they're looking for. They just have a homicide with no suspect. The average physical evidence gathered is in the upwards of 220 to 250 range, okay? Then remember, we have 4 people here, and if we're just being generous, you can cut that into 2 different crime scenes instead of 4 different areas of the house. So in 2 crime scenes, you would expect at least bare minimum 500 pieces of physical evidence, 40 to 500 pieces of physical evidence. So 113 is 20% of that. Like, you're cutting that into fifths, and that's the kind of physical evidence we have. In my opinion, something here feels wrong in the Idaho 4 Bryan Kohberger case, the main case we're investigating. But with these expert topics, which it's not really an expert topic, but it is a little bit, I guess, that we're going to be digging into because I have some points of reference here and things like that. But within the Idaho 4 case, this can apply, but it can also apply to other cases out there too, based on examples and things of that nature. So what do you think happens normally at a crime scene?
I think the first thing they do is check the victims. Like, they get to the victims. Do they need help? Are they alive and in need of medical attention or not? And as trained professionals, they will be careful about, while they're entering the home, trying not to step like in blood or anything like that. But initially, I think their concern is the person. Take care of the person first. But if they are not in need of help, if they are obviously gone and it is an obvious crime scene, immediately you secure the crime scene. Everybody out, nobody in here, block it off, quarantine it, call in a forensic team. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the top 3 no matter where I look. So I like to take multiple different sources into account when I'm looking at this. And one of the sources I'm looking at is a 10 steps for controlling the crime scene, and it's through a police magazine. It's like policemag.com or something like that. And it is an overly qualified advanced crime scene investigator. It's GBI Special Agent Elena Honia or something like that. I'm probably hacking the last name, but I will
put her on screen here. But she's only like one of 4 in her field. Like, that's how advanced her training and technology is. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and she's giving the rundown here on this, because I would have thought that same thing. Now, what's interesting is, EMS was first on scene, emergency services.
Yeah.
Now, did you know they're trained to control a crime scene? They can control, like, at least as well as they can. So, looking at this crime scene, taking into account 113 pieces of evidence and not having a plethora of DNA samples, like, to me, I keep going back to something feels wrong there. Something, and it feels like it could be obvious, feels wrong there, right? Well, let's play the tape back, and 1122, regardless what happened during that 8-hour period, we aren't even going to touch on that. We're just going to assume everything is standard and whatever, right? And the crime scene started when the call came in. So EMS gets there, and by that time, multiple kids had already been in that house there. Already in and trying to get to Ethan and check everybody and see what's going on. Multiple kids is what we're being told. And based on the person that reached out to me said that too. Then EMS gets there. They get there first, right? And I would assume, we don't have a statement, but I would assume they kick everybody out. Literally everybody out. Get out of here. They check the scene, whatever, and start controlling that. Then a police officer gets there minutes later, and if this is correct, what should have happened is that police officer should have gone inside and checked the crime scene. So this says, number one, before anything else, which I kind of feel weird about this, but okay, I'm not in control of their training.
Okay.
She says the number one most important thing is officer safety first. That kind of feels weird. I feel like an officer signs up to, like, protect others first. So
I think the point is you can't help other people if you can't help yourself. So if you run in there like not caring, you're like, I'm a hero, and then you get shot or you get stabbed and killed because you weren't being careful and keeping in mind your own personal safety, you can't help anybody. You're gone.
Yeah, I get that. And I understand when it comes to mental health, that is number one, because that's flawed decision making. But with physical safety, like, I would really hope that an officer would get in front of a somebody who's not trained, like somebody in the general public, you know what I mean? That statement just makes me feel otherwise. But anyway, so officer safety first, and then the safety of others on scene. So the expectation would be to make sure everyone's out of there, and then make sure everyone is away from the scene. Number two, clear the scene to verify no one is in hiding. So you would think the officer, knowing that they have a crime scene there, because EMS was there first, then the kids, like, they verified there's people passed already by the time the cop gets there. You would probably go in with gloves and check the house, clear the house, you know what I mean? And then this says document others' movements in the scene. So what you're supposed to do at that point is get out of the scene. So once you go in, and this is a really interesting part, you guys. So when I was doing crime scene investigations, it says that there's this rule of thumb that every single time someone enters a crime scene, you are bringing something in or taking something out. So you need to minimize the amount of people that are in and out of that crime scene.
That makes sense.
You know what's interesting, though?
What?
How many people did they call over to that house?
Oh my gosh, so many. Like, Idaho State police officers, like every officer probably from Moscow PD, FBI. There was, 60?
There was a lot. Well, there wasn't 60 officers there.
Well, no,
Not
you
FBI
said they
officers.
didn't go in either, is what you said about the FBI. But there was a lot of people there.
Yeah, so those early morning shots, I couldn't find a single FBI officer. Just to throw something else weird out there. I've never been able to find an FBI officer in a picture of that house during any of the times. I know, super strange. That goes back to what I was saying like some weeks ago.
That is strange.
I don't think the FBI was on scene or involved as much as we think they were. Okay, so then after they clear the scene, the officer should clear it and then exit outside and immediately start documenting everybody. Your focus after securing the inside is to check the outside and document. So an officer should have left the scene and started getting names and, okay, so you were here before I got here, you sit down. You were here, you sit down. What's your name? Da-da-da-da. Why were you here? What's your name? Why were you here? They should constantly be looking at the areas around it because criminals tend to return, you know what I mean? And that's actually one of the things they try and say Bryan Kohberger did, was he returned to the crime. We just haven't seen evidence yet. That's why I'm saying it in that way. I personally haven't seen evidence, and I don't take people at face value.
But that's interesting. I didn't think about that being the next step of secure the crime scene, then go outside and write down everybody that you see.
Yeah. I didn't either. That was new information for me.
But actually, it kind of makes sense now that I think about it, like with other situations I've been in with police where they start writing down everybody's name and asking you why you're here. Like, yeah, I guess they do that. But I've never been in a situation where I was present at, like, you know, a murder. Mm-hmm. So I haven't seen that in person.
This specifically says that the best way of doing this is body-worn cameras.
Of course.
To continue walking around and with your body camera, just another reason why we always say body cameras need to be 24/7.
They're important for everybody.
They are important for everybody.
Everybody involved.
And it says, if EMS is on scene, allow them to do their job, which wouldn't apply in this situation. But try to document anything and everything they move or manipulate in the scene. EMS will manipulate the crime scene in the process of attempting to render aid, but if you document what they do and what they move, it assists the investigators and crime scene personnel with still being able to conduct a proper examination of the scene. Body-worn cameras are great for this. They help document the scene as it was when you arrived and allow you to document what EMS is doing. Again, another great reason where if there is scene movement or anything like that, your camera would have been able to identify that. It is really important at this time, if anyone else in that scene, that you document their movements through the scene or remove them from the immediate scene completely. It is always preferable that there is more than one officer on scene, but obviously that's not always possible. If more than one officer is on scene, split duties. Someone should control witnesses while someone stays with EMS. Number 4. Separate witnesses from bystanders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I wonder if the proper conversations were done at 1122.
Me too.
I wonder if that could have changed a narrative around potential fraternity, 4chan type stuff. Because every person, we don't have a list of everyone there, but we know the people that showed up were part of the Greek life, man. Mm-hmm. Part of Greek Row.
They were.
So, determine who is considered a witness and who is considered a bystander. Witnesses should be separated and kept on scene outside of the crime scene tape to be interviewed by investigators. Bystanders need to be removed from the scene completely.
Outside the crime scene tape, right?
Yeah, if you're to that point yet. And then it says, 5, touch, manipulate as little as possible. Once the scene is secure, a search warrant or consent will be needed to process the scene. If you are still in the scene with EMS or trying to remove witnesses, touch as little as possible. If you must touch something, make sure you are wearing gloves. Latex gloves are better to be worn while manipulating anything in the crime scene. Patrol gloves can absorb biological evidence or contaminate evidence in the scene. If you have moved or manipulated anything in the scene, make sure it is documented for investigators and crime scene personnel. If If there is a gun or other... This is interesting.
Okay.
If there is a gun or other dangerous weapons on scene that pose no threat to anyone, leave it alone and document. If you are responding to a reported end yourself with a self-inflicted gunshot wound, that gun is still in the victim's hand. The gun is not going to go off on its own. Do not touch it. There is no reason to clear a weapon for officer safety. If the gun is in hand or near a deceased individual... Yeah, if it's near a deceased individual. If a gun is located in the scene and no one is near it, leave the gun alone. If a gun does pose a threat to officer safety due to multiple people being in the residence, by all means unload the gun and leave it there and document everything. So
if there's a weapon that is there that is not a danger, it should be left alone.
Here's my question. The officer was supposed to clear the scene.
Yeah.
Part of being an officer and being trained and clearing a scene is making sure nobody is in that residence.
Yeah.
And looking for weapons.
Yeah.
And nobody saw a sheath? Hello?
Oh, yeah.
The officer that was on site, how did they know there was no one inside?
So right.
They should have gone inside and cleared every room.
Yeah.
Systematically, one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Probably starting from the bottom up or the top down. Either way, they should have, based on this training of one of the most qualified individuals in the nation, should have been looking for weapons. Number one, this says weapons above all else. You look for people and weapons. And they missed that? In my opinion, if I was that cop's chief or leader, that feels like there needs to be some accountability there.
Yeah, because Payne was like 4 hours late to the scene. Like, what that sheath should have been found within the first, 30 minutes.
I agree. When I was reading this, I wasn't even reading it with that intention. I just made that connection while I was reading. I was like, wait. I need to go back. What? That should have been found.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Payne, I feel like they kind of made it sound like, well, it was partially under her body, but next her. Then how did Payne find it?
From the door. And there better be body cam footage, because here's where it's forgiven. Now, if I was that person's chief, again, I would still hold them accountable. That's like verbal conversation write-up worthy, in my opinion. If the two most important things you're looking for are people and weapons, hello, it's the shape of a knife, a large knife. But, so... I don't remember where I was going with that. But anyways, that should have been found. That should have been found. You know what I mean?
No, I absolutely agree with you. And it gets even weirder when Blaker in his own PCA says when he was... It's pretty clear they were walking through the crime scene together because they got there together. The same officer walks them through. And that he was notified later the sheath was found. And it was supposedly found by ISP. Payne is not ISP. Yep. He was the lead on this investigation from Moscow Police Department.
Yep.
And supposedly Payne found that knife sheath while on that walkthrough with Blaker.
Yep. There better be body cam footage, man.
Yeah. There has to be. If there's not... I don't know if I can believe anything anymore, to be honest.
It's just going to make it very hard. There's got to be some compelling, convincing evidence, because here's the thing, and this doesn't have anything to do with him being guilty or innocent. We should never be expected to just believe our police officers in the same way that I don't want my police officers to just be expected to believe me.
No, yeah, for sure.
What good would that police officer be if they're walking around believing everybody?
No, officer, I don't have anything in my car.
I don't have any
right
weapons
now.
or dope in my car. Oh, you're good then, man. Go on, get out of here.
Yeah, I don't have a bomb in my car, and then you go and drive and like bomb town square or something. Like you have to verify.
Yeah.
You know?
And the same goes for officers. So.
Absolutely.
Number 6, bigger is better. Whoa.
Wait, what?
That's what it says.
That is like not very nice.
Place crime scene tape around the scene. If the scene is a residence, place tape around the curtilage of the scene.
The property
if there is a visible evidence in the roadway or outside the immediate curtilage, continue the tape out to secure that area as well. You can always make a scene smaller if you determine the size of the scene is unnecessary, but it's much harder, almost impossible, to expand the scene once evidence has been altered or destroyed. You know what's funny?
The crime scene tape was literally only around the house.
They expanded it.
Yeah.
They did not start big and go in. The first tape is just around the house.
The literal house, like touching the siding of the house.
Yeah. And then the next
tape...
Tied
to that ladder.
And then the next tape was wider. But that evidence is tainted. Where I'm going with this is like, I keep saying these guys have never been a part of a crime like this. One, I don't see any FBI agents on any of the pictures of the investigation of the initial day this happened. And I wish there were. Because I don't feel like these dudes were ready for this.
No, I don't think they were ready for it either, which is why I think they called for help right away. But if they called for help from ISP and ISP comes and their forensic team comes, you would think that Did
they come and fix all that? Is the second tape really when ISP came in and was like, what is going on here?
Maybe.
This is insane.
That's a good theory, yeah.
Because someone identified it.
Yeah, somebody was like, hey, this isn't... the whole property needs to be taped off. Like, yeah.
So were all of these steps?
Oh, wait, no. He floated in through the top balcony and then landed at the bottom of the stairs on the second floor on 1 foot.
Yes.
He just needed a little bounce, like a little lift off, you know?
Yes. But that's an interesting theory, though, that they came in and tried to fix it, so...
Yeah, no, for real. I think...
But it was too late. There were multiple kids on scene. There was EMTs on scene. There were multiple officers on scene. I mean, shoot. Did you know the police car literally pulled up to the house?
When?
When the first police officer that got there pulled up to the house, as far up to the house as they could on that far right side. How do you know there wasn't footsteps there?
Yeah. Or like BLOOD.
I would think you should like block off that driveway and then get out and enter so no one else can go there.
Yeah, like in the street, basically.
Yep. So, number 7. Post officers at the crime scene tape. No one goes into the scene that doesn't need to. Criminal Investigations Division, CID, the crime scene unit, or state agencies, if being used, should be the only ones to enter the scene once it's roped off to avoid contamination or destruction of evidence. If there are a lot of sightseers and or media, create an outer perimeter in addition to the inner perimeter. If it is a large scene, multiple officers need to be used to keep the scene secure. We see that outer perimeter happening here, but I'm going to have pictures up as we're talking through this to go through how it seems like they were unsuccessful with certain things. So,
yeah, I mean, that's why we say incompetence, okay? That's why, because it seems like they're not following standard procedure, that, like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It just seems like inexperience. But I know some people take issue with that. Like, Get a Clues, like, said, don't pull the incompetence card when they supposedly have the FBI and ISP assisting them. That That's not fair anymore to say they're just incompetent when they have all of these, agencies helping them.
Yeah, but my only thing is if they fluked this entire crime scene and then these other agencies get there, I could see them being like, this is already poo-poo. Like,
yeah, you guys did a terrible job.
You guys messed this up and there's nothing I can do to fix it. So, 8, note any transient evidence and document. Transient evidence is evidence that may be easily destroyed or lost if preservation measures are not taken immediately. Transient evidence may be the odors at the scene, ice in a glass, blood on a portion outside that may be destroyed if it's raining or about to rain, or etc. First responding officers should try to note these things once the scene is secured. The officer can photograph the item before it's destroyed or lost, or cover the evidence so it doesn't get rained on. Ice in a glass may melt by the time the investigators or crime scene unit get into the scene. The ice may be probative to the investigation. Blood outside may indicate the suspect was injured. If it's about to rain, that evidence could be lost. You could put a tarp over it or a tent that may assist in preserving it. If you have a way to collect the blood, go ahead and collect the preserve the evidence. It is very important to try to obtain photographs of this evidence so the investigators and crime scene personnel know where and in what condition the evidence is when they arrive. So transient evidence. I think that's super important, and it could go into what I was saying, that these guys just weren't ready for this type of crime, because how do we know that transient evidence, even inside the home, didn't get trampled, didn't get walked over, didn't get messed with, didn't get moved, didn't get stuck to the bottom of a shoe, didn't get carried out, didn't get cleaned up, didn't get whatever. There's a million things that could happen here. And as
like the latent shoe print.
Yeah, as I'm reading here, I'm going to show pictures of this house with its doors wide open. Doors wide open, front and back. Okay, that lets in moisture. Did you guys know moisture deteriorates fingerprints?
Really?
Yeah. It removes them from a scene. So why are the doors just open?
Well, I think they're open because when they arrived, the door was already open. So
yeah, there were kids there, but you can close that and not to continue let the outside air filled with moisture into the home. They not only left that open, they opened all of them.
Yeah, I think they were like implying that maybe the killer had left the door open.
They don't know that.
Yeah, because I saw a lot. I mean, we don't know that, especially considering there were people in the crime scene that arrived that morning.
The remaining roommates opened that door and went out. So what do you mean?
Well, that's the rumor, yeah. But we don't know that for certain.
Oh, I mean, 911 had to get called somehow.
Yeah, they could have called somebody over. Like, we still don't know if they called people over and those people came in the home and called 911 from in the home, or if they went outside and it was a passerby.
Yeah.
We don't know that for certain yet. Yep. But I've seen some people talk about the open doors before, saying that maybe they thought the killer left it open that much, so they left it open that exact amount for some reason. But
sorry if that's your opinion. That's just not helpful. That cannot be true. What is the benefit? Like, explain it to me.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
You just snap a picture and you move on.
Yeah, I think they're talking like dusting for fingerprints, but I don't think that
doesn't
it matters.
Change anything.
Yeah, I don't think it matters how open the door is.
No, it doesn't. So they should have closed it. They risked the entire crime scene doing that for fingerprints and DNA by allowing the moisture into the house. Absolutely. What they should have done is they should have turned off any heat, they should have turned off any AC, and they should have made sure every window was shut and door to preserve that crime scene. Number 9, do not introduce anything to the crime scene unnecessarily. Hello, open doors. Do not make yourself at home in the crime scene. Don't bring your coffee into the scene. Don't sit on the furniture. Don't use any phones in the scene that don't belong to you. Don't use the bathroom in the scene. Don't eat. Don't drink. Don't do anything in the scene. Don't smoke. Don't spit. If you want to smoke, go outside the crime scene tape. But do not throw your cigarette butts on the ground. If you chew tobacco, don't spit in the scene or anywhere in the general area of the scene. Use a spit bottle. Control the scene. Lock down the scene. Do not worry about marking evidence unless there's a potential the evidence may be altered or destroyed without doing so.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more you talk about it, yeah, the open doors don't make sense. You're totally right. It doesn't.
Nope, they don't.
That's actually, yeah, wow.
10, contact the coroner or medical examiner. If the victim is deceased and not being transported to the hospital, a coroner or medical examiner will have to pronounce the victim deceased, make sure they are contacted, and en route to the scene.
Well, so from my research on coroners, it varies. Because in some states and cities, coroners aren't elected officials. Some places have a coroner, but they're not elected. In Moscow, Kathy Mabbitt is the elected coroner.
It's coroner or medical examiner.
Yeah, but some
There's
places...
always one or the other.
Some places don't have a coroner at all.
Yeah, but then those places have medical examiners.
Yeah, but the medical examiner doesn't come to the scene and pronounce them dead.
Yeah. Yes.
Nobody has to come. The coroner doesn't even have to come to the scene to pronounce them dead.
They have to be the one to pronounce them dead. So a coroner or medical examiner are the only ones who can do it. Police officers cannot.
Okay, but that's only official paperwork, because I've seen tons of people talk about this online, and I've seen articles on it that there's even instances where they've driven by a scene and pronounced them dead, or just sat in their office and got called by the cops, and they're like, yeah, we have this and this, and it's just, okay, I pronounce this person dead on a piece of paper because the cops told me they were dead.
Yeah, I understand that, but you're missing the fact that this is one of 4 people that are the top of their class in the entire nation. So if I'm going to take an opinion of anybody, it's going to be somebody that knows what they're doing here. So regardless of what people have said, if you have a coroner or medical examiner, I don't think any of those details that you just said matter. They have to be called.
Yeah, they have to be called.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they're going to come there.
Maybe, yeah, it doesn't say that, though, in here.
Okay.
So maybe in certain towns they allow their coroner or medical examiner to accept what the police officer is saying, snap a picture and send it to him or something of that nature. But here's the thing. If you're a professional and you are the one that is saying that this person is dead and it is your signature, in my opinion, you're making a mistake by just letting someone tell you what your job is.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I see what you're saying.
I would listen to this professional, and in my experience when I'm signing documents, I'm just not willing to sign anything unless I see it with my own 2 eyes.
Yeah, so. Like going off somebody's word, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But, so I've never heard any of those things before. I just want to be very clear for people that regardless, I think you should expect your coroner and medical examiner to come unless they say otherwise. So, because they're the only ones who can make that decision. Police can't, nobody else can.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it appears to vary across the country by quite a bit.
Yeah, but it's
whether
the coroner or medical examiner making the decision, not other people.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not negotiating that.
I understand. The way you were just saying it makes it sound like it can vary because of state law, it can vary because of people on scene, and based on this, that is not true. It can vary because the coroner or medical examiner made the decision to handle it a different way. So.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that distinction is important. I don't know. This is a leader in their field, not a content creator. So to me, that has more value.
Okay, it's just a very general statement. They're not giving any nuances or, I was just providing the fact that it appears to vary quite a bit state to state. Yes, they are the person who declares the victim dead. Yes, they are, but that doesn't mean they've examined them even in some situations.
Right, yeah. A coroner or medical examiner can handle it in their own choosing.
Yeah, they can choose it, yes.
Yep. So, that's interesting. But yeah, it was just like how you were saying it, so.
Okay.
But yeah, I found all of this interesting, super interesting, and related to what I saw on the scene, a lot here. So, I'm curious what you guys think, though. What did you hear in going through some of this and controlling the scene? Does this make sense now? Why they only have 113 pieces? 2 different control lines or whatever it's called, the whatever lines, the tape. 2 different ones of those where it started smaller and went bigger, the doors open, body cam walking through and securing the scene with the knife sheath that I would think should have been seen by an expert, and whatnot.
Yeah, I think it just raises red flags with what we saw in the imagery, like the trash outside. Like you said, the doors open. Now I'm curious about going back and looking at a lot of the pictures and seeing what's off, Because, yeah, I think it could make 113 pieces of evidence make more sense.
Yeah, and give the defense a huge area to exploit.
It actually makes the latent shoe print make a little bit more sense, because I know we've all been asking, why only one? And who cleaned that up?
Yeah.
Like, why was it latent? Now, I get some people have said, well, latent doesn't mean it was, that it was blood, but, like, why else talk about it?
Yeah.
If it isn't. Like.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
But let us know.